So hey guys, today we're going to be talking about degenerate things that were done in Master Duel, and there was no short amount. But we'll start with, well, I think the dumbest thing. So we have, of course, this. We have DD Dynamite FTK. So why do you guys think DD Dynamite is semi-limited? Well, the answer to this was because there was a bunch of FTK bots and they all played a deck that just resolved DD Dynamite and used this as their win condition. So the basic idea is you need 2 copies of DD Dynamite plus 1 copy of Banquet of Millions. So you would have a crap ton of draw power to look and kind of dig for the Dynamite or the Banquet. And some of the ways you would do this is you would have like Trap Trick. This would work. And then you also have, well, you have 3 copies of this, right? So this could be either Banquet or DD Dynamite, depending on how you play it, I guess. This is functionally a replacement for those cards, kinda. And then after this, you also had, whatchamacallit, the Lady of Lament, I think. So this one, the Lady of Lament, which allows you to choose 3 cards and then you can set one. So you could do, for example, select DD Dynamite, and then Trap Trick. And that would be sufficient. If assuming you already had one in hand, right? You would basically guarantee that you have 2 Dynamite here. Or this could be like Banquet, Trap Trick, or Banquet, Banquet. And then that would just be the FTK. So you just flip over Banquet, and this will banish 15 of your opponent's cards, which is what this is based on, the burn damage for this. So that's, well, assuming you play a full extra deck, that's going to be 300 times 15, which is going to be too much. This is more than 4,000. So specifically, this is 4,500, I believe. So to make sure you can't be lethal, you had to remove some cards from your extra deck, so it was like 2-3 cards or something. And then you couldn't be lethal anymore because the math didn't add up. But yeah, most of your games was just essentially against this, which was kind of lame. Because if you immediately win the coin flip, you essentially just win the game and the bot immediately surrenders. But if you were going second, you just get hit by this, and if you didn't open any hand traps, no game is really played, which is just pretty lame, honestly. And even if you were to like hold the bot hostage and try to time out the bot, right? That wouldn't be that helpful because there's only one of you and there's like a bajillion bots, right? So that doesn't really do a whole lot for you, which also sucks. And that is the story of why essentially DD Dynamite is at 2, and it will probably remain that way for like forever. And is there a good reason to have DD Dynamite at 3? No, I can't really think of a particular reason why like anyone would particularly care for it to be at 3 unless you were playing a burn kind of deck that utilizes it. But you know, Banquet Burn, FTK, that's what it would enable either way. And yeah, that's not necessarily fun to play against either. So that kind of sucks. And the funny thing is, technically, this isn't even that bad of a strategy right now, all things considered, because if I were to activate Banquet of Millions and then the 2 copies of DD Dynamite, well, this wouldn't necessarily work against every single deck, but the idea is if you had like a more burn focused instead of just Banquet of Millions only kind of focus, just getting the specific combo. If we just want to burn for game, I mean, your opponent might set up an end board, but back row interaction is rarer than monster interaction, so it makes this kind of viable somewhat, which is weird, but I guess cool. So next, well, there's a lot of degenerate things, so I guess we'll move on to the one I hate the most for a variety of reasons. So we have 5 Rainbow Magician, and 5 Rainbow Magician is limited. Although honestly, I think this card should just be banned because there's like no good reason for this to be in the game, I don't think. So 5 Rainbow Magician says, with the pendulum effect here, you cannot pendulum summon except from the extra deck, which doesn't mean much. This effect cannot be negated. And then the important effect here, each player applies one of these effects based on the number of set cards in their spell and trap zones. 0. All monsters they control cannot attack or activate their effects. 4 plus, the attack of all monsters they control become double their original attack. And then this effect here, if either player sets a spell/trap on your field while this card is in your graveyard, except during the turn step, you can place this card in your pendulum zone. So the weird part is that this only applies if you, the controller, or the owner of this card, has this card in the graveyard, and then a card is set to your field, but it doesn't really matter which player sets the card to your field. But I don't know if there is, like, there really isn't that. Well, yeah, I don't think there really is a card where you can set a spell trap to your opponent's field. Like, this is pretty much an impossible task. So, no idea about this, but alright. Moving on. Essentially, what this card does, though, is if you do not control any set cards in your spell and trap zones, all monsters you control cannot attack or activate their effects. So this is literally just Mystic Mine, essentially. And then there's this effect that doesn't really matter. The attack of all monsters they control become double their original attack. This is basically not that relevant, like, ever. But, alright. Well, what's so bad about this card? Well, I can give you a few reasons. So, first off, we have what Branded can do with this. So, with Branded, we can activate Branded Fusion, and then we can use the effect to summon Albion. And this is in fact a light monster, and you can send any light monster off of Branded Fusion, allowing you to send 5 Rainbow. And then later on, if we send Albion to the graveyard with like Mirror Jade effect, we will have a set card because of Albion's graveyard effect. So this is just kind of just a combo piece even that you could use in Branded, which is disgusting. Yeah, not really a big fan of this one. But you know what? At least if you go first, you have a chance against 5 Rainbow, right? No. What gave you that impression? If we have the Labyrinth card, specifically if we have either Stogie Torby or Chen Dreglier, these guys can actually discard, send, or whatever the perform of battle 5 Rainbow, and then in the next chain, 5 Rainbow will trigger because you set probably like a Big Welcome or something. And then that allows you to set the 5 Rainbow, and then you also have back row because, you know, you're playing Labyrinth. Then if your opponent does not have any back row, they're immediately getting floodgated out of the gate, I guess, right? And you cannot activate any of your monster effects on the field. Literally turn 0 skill drain. Absolutely abhorrent card. And you can imagine how much worse this would be if 5 Rainbow was at 3. I don't think it even needs to be described. But yeah, just horrendous time, all things considered, dealing with this card. Against something like a Tenpai, I think they'd be fine though. I'm pretty sure they have cards to set, like, I don't know, you could set Lightning Storm, Droplet, Duster, Sengen Kaiman, Field Spell. Doesn't count for this, right? Yeah, okay. I don't think it does. Does it? No, it might actually. I don't know what that counts as for this. Spell and Trap Zones. What does Duster say? It doesn't say destroy all cards in the spell and trap zones, does it? Destroy all spells and traps your opponent controls. Yeah, okay. Is there a card that specifically says destroy all cards in your opponent's, like... Well, I guess the field spell would count as a spell, so it would always be destroyed. That's confusing to think about, but alright, whatever. So, yeah, 2 Degenerate strategies down. We have quite a few more to go. So, next up, I guess we'll talk about this one. So, this is one of the things or strategies that well, honestly, a lot of these strategies I despise, but here's another one. So with Tri Brigade, there was something you could do that was relatively degenerate. So with the Tri Brigade cards, they allow you to cheat out some link monsters and whatnot, and this is actually hella annoying. So essentially what you do is you get your Tri Brigade stuff, you get your Lyrless stuff, and you set up some link summoning. And that might sound harmless at first, it's just some link summoning. Well, what's the worst that could happen? Well, what you're going to be doing is you're going to be using specifically Union Carrier. And then with Union Carrier effect, we're going to be uh, let's see, where is it? Well, we're going to be grabbing this guy, and we're also going to be grabbing the Mist Valley cards. So just one moment here. So, all right, we grab the Mist Valley Thunderbird, and we equip this card to the Simorgh Bird of Sovereignty, which doesn't do much by itself, but then we can use the effect of Simorgh Bird of Perfection to summon Apex Avian. And this is just something you'll pretty much always be able to do, because if you're going first, there'll be enough open zones to do so. So, basic idea, we can just summon Simorgh Bird of Sovereignty with the Tri Brigade cards. And then we also make the Union Carrier, which equips the Mist Valley Thunderbird onto this. And then we have the effect of Mist Valley Apex Avian. Once per chain, when a card or effect is activated, quick effect, you target one Mist Valley card you control, return that target to the hand, and if you do, negate the activation, and if you do that, destroy it. So this just requires any Mist Valley card to be on the field, and this just requires it to be face up on the field, doesn't have to be in a monster zone. And also Union Carrier's restrictions only last for the current turn, they don't apply to the next turn. So you can special summon, activate effects or whatever the following turn, and then what ends up happening, of course, is special summon Thunderbird, and you just keep negating whatever your opponent does. And plus you also have some Tri Brigade stuff to back this up, so you'll probably have like double Dragon Lords or whatever right here. So this will be able to bounce back any normal summon that might be able to run over Mist Valley Thunderbird as well. So it's just infinite omnis once per chain. But if you can't do something like chainable, then Apex Avian is just going to absolutely ruin you. And that's painful. But of course, there's more. And I guess worth mentioning is just with Union Carrier, if you have any dark monster, just any dark monster at all in your deck, you can just go ahead and equip the Dragon Buster Destruction Sword, which says that while this card is equipped to a monster, it can be any monster, I believe, right? Your opponent cannot special summon monsters from the extra deck. So, it's just like Scythe Lock, except, you have what I think, to an extent, is less of a fighting chance. So, in Thunder Dragon, for example, you have to somehow out Colossus, a monster that cannot be destroyed, just period. Not by battle, not by card effect, and it might not even be hard once per turn, but wouldn't be surprised either way. In fact, I would have to check. Is this even hard once per turn? If this card would be... There's no hard ones per turn, yep. So, yeah, this is pretty much just a non-destructible card, so you have to find some non-destruction way to remove Thunder Dragon Colossus. So even if you were to, for example, let's assume this Thunder Dragon Colossus was summoned in defense, then you would have to still, even if you had Droplet, you would still have to out this because it would still have the Buster well equipped to it. So you would need pretty much exactly a Kaiju to out this Colossus. Otherwise, you can't special summon from the extra deck for the rest of the turn, pretty much. I guess Harpy's Feather Duster also would do the trick, but, just backer removal is a struggle. So, yeah, that sucks. Then there was also, of course, Well, let's go with another FTK. So when instant fusion was still legal, so now that's not legal, it's not as doable, I suppose. So with um, instant fusion being legal, Pendulum Magician specifically, or just kind of Pen Soup in general, kind of had an FTK. So the basic idea for this FTK is pretty simple. So you can set up an Omni Negate or something like that because there are Omnis in that deck, you know? So you can set up like Vortex Dragon, Baron de Fleur, maybe even Borlord Savage, just whatever you set up on Omni, and then you go through your combo. In this which case, we can use Redland, Verte, Anaconda to then copy the effect of Instant Fusion after we finish the setup, of course. And then Instant Fusion allows you to uh, special summon a fusion monster that meets these conditions. And it also, the effect is not negated, not that it particularly matters here. And the card in question that you want to be copying here is going to be Independent Nightingale. And Independent Nightingale's effect is essentially this card will burn based on this card's level, which doesn't mean much, you know, because this is a level 1 monster. This would only burn you for 500. And also notably, this is soft once per turn. But what you were doing was you were using Starving Venom, which you can just contact fuse out to then copy the effect right here. You enter one other monster on the field or in the graveyard until the end phase. This card's name becomes that monster's original name and replace this effect with that monster's effect. So this is also a soft once per turn. So if I have, let's say, I don't know, 2 Supreme King Dragon Starving Venoms, and both of them copy Lyralist Independent Nightingale to burn for 500 for every single level, we have, oh, what's this? 8 times 500 is 4,000, and I have 2 of these. Oh, would you look at that? 8,000 damage. Good game. And, you know, this was just fairly hard to stop for a variety of reasons, and hence we are now at 1 copy of Starving Venom. And Instant Fusion wasn't actually banned because of this. It was limited to 1 before. And the deck playing this was just Tearlament, you know, because you'd Instant Fusion kill us. Yeah. But anyways, Supreme King Dragon Starving Venom was limited to 1 because of this. And then everything else remained legal. Although, like, Instant Fusion was kind of questionable. We could just banned Instant Fusion and left Starving Venom alone. Honestly, if you ask me, that would have been sufficient. I don't know if there's anything else Degenerate you could really do with Starving Venom, though. So, yeah. That FDK was kind of just prominent as well. And then, I guess, you know, while we're at it, might as well mention this. And we ask ourselves sometimes, you know, just, well, why are these cards okay at all? So, the runic cards here, they're all for no reason, just kind of soft ones per turn kind of effect. So with Runic Fountain, we have a soft once per turn on the draw effect here. Once per turn, if you activate a Runic Quick Play spell card, you can target up to 3 Runic Quick Play spells in your graveyard. Place them on the bottom of your deck in any order, then draw the same number of cards. Runic Stun. Yeah, Runic Stun. It was indeed not Runic Fun. I guess we can put it that way. So the idea here is, well, you could do pretty much whatever you want with the Runic cards when they were unlimited. It was just kind of unfair, really. Not a whole lot more to say about that, but yeah, you could go like Tip, Fountain, and then you could also use Fountain, like activate Fountain on top of Fountain, and then you could draw cards again. And this is even dumber when you activate Reasoning, honestly. And then yeah, there were Runic FDKs, honestly, as well as Runic Stun, but yeah. So if we then place Runic Fountain, we can then special summon this guy, Jerry the Runic Fangs, which has the ability to add a non-quick play Runic spell in your graveyard to your hand, which, you know, Runic Fountain was one, of course. So we could then, off of just 2 copies of Fountain, we could loop Fountain 1 time. So the first time we would activate the first Fountain, and then we would place a second Fountain, and then the first Fountain would go into the graveyard, and then we'd add it back with Jerry. So then, off of just 2 Fountains, we can, well, theoretically, that's draw 9, which is, yeah, I hate it. Dumb. And off of every single one of these runic cards, you can summon a body for pretty much free. So yeah, hate the cards. And also Hugin. Yeah, Hugin protecting back row, protecting fountain, and just generically protecting stuff. It protects like Peekaboo, rivalry, whatever. Just yeah. Anyway, moving on from that, we have still some more degenerate strategies. So we'll go with one of the Kishtira strategies, I suppose. So it's not as doable now. I mean, it's technically kind of doable now, but you know, when we had two Fenrir, well, this isn't runic exclusive, or not runic, Kishtira exclusive. But what you could do is essentially, because of having multiple copies of Fenrir. Let's say I open exactly what I need here. So if I open specifically Small World plus Fenrir, this is something I can only do if I have multiple copies of Fenrir, right? So, um, I mean, you can kind of do it now, but it's not nearly as good, I would argue. But we special summon Fenrir to add Fenrir, which is just pretty harmless so far, right? And then we can Small World banish this Fenrir. But what are we doing with this Fenrir? So, uh, everyone was, for the most part, and still kind of are, you're running Max E. So your second banish would be Max E. And why is it Max E? So we banish Fenrir, which is an Earth Psychic with not much else in common with Max E, which is an Earth Insect with that stat line. So what card are we adding off of this? Oh, right. Fossil Dino Pachycephalo. Ah, misery. And of course, all these guys can kind of also bridge into Fenrir. So it was kind of a little self-sufficient, kind of obnoxious package where you better have the out to Fossil Dyna, I suppose. And if you don't, you know, you just probably lose. You're staring down like probably an N board of some sort with Kashir Fenrir and Fossil Dyna. And this wasn't just, of course, like a Kashtira exclusive tech because, you know, you had three copies of Maxi, so technically if you had Maxi going first, you would trade that in for a Fossil Dino. Or even, like, if you had a level 4 monster you might want to play, then you could go trade this in for, I guess, in this case, we could do, like, Vanquish Soul Rosin with the only commonality being that these guys are level 4s. So it just bridged a lot of stuff. I mean, this was a little bit more of a niche tech, but disgusting nonetheless. And then, you know, speaking of Fossil Dino, of course, we can still search it with the Valence stuff. And this hasn't been, like, that nerfed, except for the fact that there's no more Secret Village. But, you know, with Valence, you know, your opponent can search Fossil Dino by making Gallant Granite, and then you would, like, uh, just regularly normal summon Fossil Dino because you actually don't need normal summon in this Valence combo. And you also search Secret Village while you're at it, you know. So, end result, you have a Fossil Dino that can't be run over by battle, Apollosa, and also your there's a potential for an Omni Negate to be on board as well. But essentially, you cannot special summon, you cannot activate spells, and also you can't activate evenly matched. You can technically activate traps, kinda, right? But you know, your your traps will still have to contend with like Fossil Dyna and whatnot. So overall, I would say a very unfun board to play into. So you couldn't even Super Volley, no Kaijus, no evenly. Yeah, you just had to have the hand traps to stop this. And this was ridiculously consistent because the entire end board that I'm thinking of, well, it was just a one card combo. So it was like one or two cards actually, depending on the exact cards, I suppose. But you know, pretty much just the one card combo. Great. And also with the Valence field spells, you'd usually be given one so you can't activate evenly or imperm on your own turn. If you were to draw them for turn, that would be tragic. We'll leave it at that, I suppose. And kind of just degenerate overall. And then, of course, we have branded being completely degenerate, so we're once again going back to branded. So really annoyingly, We had, let's see if I can find it here. Screams. No, it wasn't Screams. Was it Judgment? Branded Expulsion, I believe, right? Could it be Fallen? Expulsion. Ah, yes. This card. Tribute one fusion monster, then target two non-fusion monsters that are banished and or in either graveyard. Special summon both monsters. So we have Branded Expulsion, and also we have where is it? If we can find it. I guess it's not showing up here. So if we do related cards to Fallen of Elbaz, it should show up. Alright. We have Sanctifier. So with Sanctifier and Branded Expulsion, you can essentially just special summon to your opponent's field whatever you want. And of course, you know, the target would be this, yugioh. And how do we get yugioh onto our opponent's field? So yugioh, I guess we're mentioning, says you cannot summon or normal set monsters. So this means you cannot normal summon, you cannot special summon, and you cannot set monsters, allowing you to do essentially nothing with monsters. So you can't even tribute summon over yugioh, which is pretty disgusting. And of course, there's no way for you to really get rid of yugioh. So with Branded Expulsion, it's possible to recycle, well, the Branded Expulsion a little bit. And the idea here is, if we have Sanctifier, I guess this is the worst one. We can give our opponent the yugioh, and also we have multiple ways of getting yugioh into the graveyard. So, of course, the first way being with Branded Fusion, send Dark. The other way is to make Grand Guignol to send this, which is just something you could do, right? So you could send this and then give your opponent this, and then they just can't play the game. So yeah, that's pretty disgusting. Degenerate, I would dare say. And yeah, those were a lot of the degenerate things you could do in Master Duel, I suppose. It gets to the point where, like, even hand loops, in my opinion, aren't like this bad. In fact, there's like a Isolde legal, and I didn't even mention any of the things you could do with Isolde, because without Isolde, we were already doing this, you know, so when you make Isolde, you could genuinely, well, assuming you go uninterrupted, you can do pretty much whatever you want. Resolve Exodia, sure, we can resolve Exodia, we could resolve, like, whatever alternate win condition we wanted, I suppose, if we were able to make a Solde to begin with. And yeah, there were a lot of FTKs, and in fact, right now there probably still are FTKs hanging around, and not just like the Gimmick Puppet one. So yeah, that's all I got for you guys today, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye.